How's it? This is Mundo, and I'm here with Carl Popek. We're in Las Vegas, and when you're in Las Vegas, and even if you're not, this is the guy to see when you want to have him repair your amps. He is the bomb, and personally, as I consider him a good friend, and I will say I learn so much from him every time. Every time I pick up an amp from him, it's just a pleasure. You know, you're just going to pick up an amp, and next thing you know, it's 30 minutes gone because he's giving me a amp lesson. So it's awesome. And recently, I'm going to have him explain what we did. I have a 73 Bassman Silverface amp, and recently, I've had it for a few years, and it never wins an A/B test. So if I have a project and my mind tells me it's a Bassman and I put it up to task, it just doesn't cut it. I use another amp. And there's nothing wrong with it. I had Carl check it out. Nothing was wrong with it. And it just didn't have the vibe. And I'm very familiar with them. I played them when I was 18 a lot. I had a 410, the 410 6, but it was a tall cabinet.
Yeah, that was, I can't think of it right now, but that was like the Super 6. Or,
yeah, and it was the best sound, and I used the Tube Screamer, and in my youth, that was the best sound. I played Rush and Van Halen on it, and funny story is, when I went to buy another amp, I didn't know Fenders were different, and I bought a Fender Twin, and it was completely different. Anyway, getting back to this amp, there's nothing wrong with it. Carl checked it out. Nothing wrong with it. It just didn't have the Vance. There was no vibe. So we got to talking about doing the Blackface conversion. And that's what you just heard. It is done. I'm going to let Carl take it because he's the man.
Okay. This amp, basically when I tested it, I looked through everything, and as far as capacitors and tubes and all that, and I looked at it and saw what needed to be improved, what was old, what needed to be replaced, and I decided to go with the AB 165 circuit. This was a Bassman 50, and that was kind of the last of the CBS Bassmans. It kind of in this genre.
And the 165 is the Blackface from before CBS.
Well, here's the thing.
Okay.
There was, when you look at a Bassman head, there's probably about 4 or 5 different versions.
Okay.
And the circuitry's changed. Now, the earlier ones, even further back, go back more like a Blackface Bassman. But as the circuit changed a little bit, this actually became its own amp, besides being a Blackface, which this is very musical. You can basically get drive, you can get this, clean, all from the same amp.
Right.
And it just, I did my magic and what I do, and
yeah, I gotta say the magic is there. I'm just trying to get my head around the AB 165. What year would that be, ish?
Oh, geez, 64, 65. I mean, 65, that's one of the reasons why it's 165, they say.
Okay, okay, I didn't know that. And check it out.
Well, I don't know if that's true.
Okay, check it out. A Blackface nowadays, it is hallowed. It is the hallowed sound. But if you're going to buy one, you're spending a lot of money.
Everything's gone up.
Right?
So, yeah.
Yeah. So why not try this idea? We converted the 73 Silverface into, per se, a Blackface, correct?
Yes, sort of, because they're all kind of, there's a mixture in there of a little bit of Blackface and Silverface.
So you modded the circuitry.
Yes.
And then did you change the caps?
Yes. Basically, I went through, all the filter caps got replaced.
And what do they do?
Basically, what filter caps do is they store your DC electricity.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Basically, when you plug into the wall, it's AC.
Right.
And then it gets rectified to DC, and then it goes through the filter caps. And the filter caps are kind of for filtering, to filter out the AC, and they're kind of a reservoir that store the energy. Mm-hmm. And
why change mine out? Were they just old, or?
Well, I mean, you should replace caps, filter caps, about every 10 years.
Really?
They do have a shelf life. There's some guys that don't, but for best performance, after a certain amount of time, you want to change them out.
I bought this used. Are these original filter caps?
No,
okay.
no. Someone put Illinois caps in here, and they're not the best caps to put in.
And caps do change the tone?
Well,
or performance?
Both.
Okay.
Not so much as far as tone-wise, but it'll have more punch. It'll respond better.
Right.
A little less noise.
And would that be? I was telling you this was kind of squishy. It was kind of not the old amp. The old when I brought it into you, it wasn't tight enough.
Well, there's a couple things.
Okay.
Part of it had to do with the filter caps. Part of it had to do with the circuit design. Part of it had to do with making sure the bias was correct.
Okay.
You know, if you're too cold, too hot, that all changes everything in the amp.
Dig it. Okay. So now that you did that, unless there's other technical things, Carl also showed me stuff about a Bassman that I never knew. So could you show me, the 2 channels? We jumped it. Can we just go quickly?
Okay. Basically, channel 2 is not a lot of people plug into channel 2, and it's a very useful input channel.
I thought it was just if you had another guitarist, you plug in channel 2.
Well, I mean, this.
And none of us want to do that.
This has the first input has a little bit hotter input.
Mm-hmm.
The second has a little less.
Yeah, it's more polite, as we found out.
It's more polite. But what you can do is go into the first channel to get it a little bit dirty, a little bit gritty, right?
Right.
And then, if you want, you can jump over to the second channel and turn up the volume a little bit more to get the same amount of punch and all that.
Right.
But you get a different sound, and it's useful.
Let's I'll do something really quick.
Okay, now I'm going to go to the first one. And
now we're in channel 2.
Yes.
Same thing, no volume.
Not channel 2, but channel 2 input.
So it's just more polite.
Yeah, I brought up the volume just a little bit to match the volume levels. But
and before we go on, why don't you speak to the hum? The hum doesn't bother me. It's just part of playing guitar. But you were mentioning if you're going through the normal channel, you want the volume off on the...
Yes. Everything kind of mixes together with both channels at a certain point before it goes to the phase inverter and it gets to the power tubes. So what happens is a lot of people don't realize that if you turn up the other channel and turn down the other one, you're gonna induce noise. Like, you hear that noise right there?
Yeah.
Let's turn this up. If I turn that down, see how that noise went away?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're cutting off that second channel or the first channel that you're not using.
Okay.
And you're not letting that noise through. If that makes sense.
It makes sense to
I
me.
don't know if I explained that properly. But
it makes sense. Okay,
yeah.
so let's stay on, let's go back to normal channel 1, input 1. So this is real touch sensitive too. So. So I can use my touch and really get it to spank. And then you can also drive it. By the way, this is just straight Bassman into this 412 cabinet. No effects. It's just a sweet breakup. So that's humbucker. It's sweet.
Then you can go back to clean. Just buy your dynamics.
Yeah, back to clean. Go to Hendrix land. Actually, it's Beatles, right? Kind of in the Hendrix setting. Really responsive. me, that's exactly what I was looking for, and we're already there for what I needed to do. But before we end, you got to show us how to jump this. I've never jumpered a Bassman, and let's just look at the bass channel.
Let's see, where's that patch cord?
By the way, so the Bassman was made for bass players as well, and that's what the bass channel's for.
Yes.
It's not to get a bassier sound. It's really for bass players.
Yes.
And I
well,
know
you can play guitar. There's a lot of people that modify this channel to be like a normal channel on a Fender. I just don't find it necessary. I think there's a lot of good sounds out of there, and you don't want to duplicate things on both sides.
Exactly, exactly. I've never known, before we filmed this, man, we ran the gamut of styles, and well, just take it away. You show me.
Okay, so all I'm going to do, you can do it to a Bassman, like a
Marshall.
Yeah, you can jumper the channels on this Fender amp.
Okay.
Like any amp that has reverb, you can't, because the channels are out of phase.
I didn't know that.
So if you try to jumper them and you turn one up, they're fighting against each other.
Okay.
And they're out of phase. So, but this, both channels are in the same phase. So you can actually put a jumper from one to the next.
Okay.
And use both channels to EQ or get different gain levels or whatever you want.
So we're going in the normal channel and we're jumping into the bass channel.
Okay, so.
Actually, maybe we should just listen to the bass channel by itself. So.
Okay.
Try to pick some of the same stuff I did before. What did I just pick? So maybe more Marshall-y now, more bass.
It's got a little less clarity to it, a little less shimmer.
No shimmer, no chime. If I went back to the rock stuff, that's really good and different. So now I've got two sounds.
Exactly.
And the first sound when I went in that land, to me, is more Eagles. This is, I don't know, maybe JTM 45. I don't know.
A little bit. And what you can do is, actually, this switch is engaged right now, so you can make it even more mellow.
And that is a mid-range cut?
No, it's a deep switch, but it kind of acts like a mid-cut when you flip it up.
Okay.
It's hard to tell on a guitar because this was made for a bass, so you're not getting the same kind of lows and highs.
I'm in jazz land now. That's nice.
What you can do is now we'll jumper the channels into the other channel. Now you'll get some of the shimmer back with the low end.
So now we're inputting into the bass channel and we're jumping into normal first input. It feels more mid-range honk now. I think this was the sound we found.
No, that was a different configuration.
Okay. There we go. There's some.
Yeah.
That is cool. I know I'm not playing it right, but that's the way I'm playing it for now.
Try that again.
Same thing. Well, that's nice. So I got more breakup. I'm going to come down on the guitar. That's really nice.
It's all about balancing the channels like the EQ and the switches, and you can get many different sounds. Or textures.
Yeah. That's really nice. So now we're jumping from second input to the second input of the bass. That's a whole different thing, but that's cool too. Let me just dime it. I played that earlier. I'm trying to play the same things for comparison. How about that?
Yep.
That more mid-range. Wow.
I mean, this is plugging straight into the amp. If you have a pedal to kick it a little bit more or whatever, there's a lot you can do. But what you were just playing is a good type of rhythm thing. You think of something that's kind of in the background that's chugging along.
Exactly.
It's got the right amount of breakup, and it leaves a lot of space.
To find it in the mix, to find itself in the mix.
Yes.
To me, that was the first thing that came. It felt like an American Marshall. Like a Fender Marshall. That was... You know what I'm saying? You know, what would be a... That sounds great, but that doesn't sound like a Marshall, but it sounds...
It's got its own thing.
Its own thing, yeah. That's what I meant.
There's just so many different textures and things you can do that it's like when you take this amp, you're going to sit there for probably a good hour plugging into this, plugging into that, and seeing what works for you and what doesn't. And like when you do a song, you're going to go, oh, this is the sound that's going to work with this song. You know? That's
kind of where we were at when I got the amp, and like I said, it never went out in a A-B battle in my studio or in another studio, and so it's hardly on anything I use. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the jumping thing because I've never done that. I've always done this. And that's basically the sound I wanted before I learned this could do more. Right there, that's a killer sound. Change pickups. Back pickup. It might sound boring, but that's like 70% of rhythm parts you're doing, you know. And I was telling Carl earlier, it's almost Eagles Man. I don't know how to play it. I mean, that's the sound.
Well, the tweed amps were mid-range.
Right.
You know, it was part speaker and a bunch of other things, but
that's awesome. Well, that's our tone. That's our tone to tell us we're done.
Okay.
have we talked about everything? I think we're good.
Yeah.
Check out Carl Popek. Show him your T-shirt. It's the best T-shirt in the history of T-shirts.
Kiss with Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin. I gotta get one. Until next time, this is Mundo and Carl. Aloha.